A rancher was thinking about changing the calving season. His herd currently calved in early March. He said he had good cows, but he was losing money. He thought that in his environment, May-June calving cows would need less hay, require less labor, and be more profitable. He thought it would be more profitable, but he didn't know for sure. There were a lot of unknowns, and because there were unknowns, he planned to transition gradually. He was going to start by putting the bulls in 2 weeks later this year, so the cows would start calving in late March next year. He planned to go a couple of weeks later the following year, and the following year, and ultimately 4 or 5 or 6 years from now, he figured the herd would wind up calving in mid or late May or even early June. I think he's probably right about May-June calving in his area. I know other producers in his part of the state who are much more profitable and a lot happier having made that change. But while I think the change he wants to make is probably a good move, I think the way he's transitioning to it is a really bad way to make that change. Look, if May-June calving is the right thing to do, he should make the jump to May-June all at once. The hardest part of change is changing, the transition. Think about it. The old way may not be working very well, or at all for that matter, but it's comfortable. We know how to do it. The new way, even if we think it's going to be better, the new way is unfamiliar. There are unknowns, and the unknowns scare us. So our tendency is to want to go slow, to test the waters. Unfortunately, going slow is rarely a fair test of the new strategy. We have all the costs of the old way and none of the advantages of the new way. That's why we often see the poorest results during the transition. No, the answer is not to go slowly. It isn't to take half measures. It's just the opposite. Look, if you're drowning in the middle of the ocean and you see a boat passing by, you don't yell, "Take your time," or "Just give me half the life preserver so we can see how this goes." No, you want the whole deal, and you want it now. The answer to uncertainty is to become more certain. That's what the Ranching for Profit School economic planning process is for. It's to make the unknowns more known. For example, in this case, we ought to run the numbers and take a look at the implications of different alternatives. One where he transitions with his current herd. Another where he sells his herd, which were selected for March calving, and then he replaces them with later calving cows. Look, many people who've made this change, the change in the calving season, tell me if they could do it over again, they'd still make the change, but they would have done it by having a dispersal sale of their good early calving cows, and then they'd buy animals selected for May-June calving. He ought to run a worst-case scenario, too, and identify early warning signs and contingencies if things head south. And it's not uncommon to find in that worst-case scenario that it's better than the status quo. That can take a lot of fear out of the change. But regardless of what we're changing from or changing to, transitions are the hardest part of change. So rather than draw them out, we'd usually be better off finding ways to shorten them up. I heard someone say that the only thing in the middle of the road are yellow stripes and dead armadillos. Half measures don't work. Decide what you need to do and then do it. When it comes to building a sustainable business, you'll achieve more success faster by determining the right strategy, committing to it, and then making the transition to it as short as possible. Unless, of course, you want to be a squashed armadillo.